Good evening, everyone. Thanks for joining us for the special live stream where we will be doing the 10 question challenge with the founder of the Organic Humanity Movement. Many of you have been asking for this interview for a long time. It's very difficult to find time with the founder. She's quite busy, very busy, in fact. And fortunately, we could get some time in a schedule to actually sit down and have this interview with us live in studio. So I'm really thankful for that. Lauren Evanthia is with me. She's the founder of the Organic Humanity Movement. Thank you for joining us, Lauren.
It's great to see all our Omis in the comments already. Can't wait for this. I must specify that I actually haven't looked at the questions. I didn't watch the previous video where the questions were posed, so this is going to be very impromptu, and I'm looking forward to the challenge.
You watch none of my videos. So
I'm guilty as charged. I do not watch Double Days videos.
So, people, this 10 question challenge is very important to me. I came up with these questions because they focus on freedom. And to me, those are the questions you need to ask any movement in the political realm to see how free they will make your future. And those of you that have been to my Double Days meetings will understand why these questions are so important. We have just over 50 people in this live stream now. It's really wonderful. Thank you all for coming in. Many of them are the Double Days channel members, and the channel members are growing daily. Thank you so much all for coming on. And yes, let's get started with the questions. So the entry requirements for this test is very specific. We need to find out if a movement or party or civil organization believes in greater good ideology or individual liberty. So this is the first question that we need to ask. And just remember, this is for everyone. So I want you to like this video to help with the algorithms and share it as much as you can so many people can see it. The last interview that I had with the Deputy President of the ACDP has had a huge impact for them. So it's important that these videos are done so that people can see where they stand with regards to freedom. The ACDP scoring a 9 out of 10. Some people say it's a 10 out of 10. But the top three parties in the country, just to understand, the EFF scoring 1 out of 10, the African National Congress scoring 2 out of 10, and the Democratic Alliance scoring 4 out of 10. Now, those are absolute fails. So if you want freedom in future, you need to find a movement, organization, political party, or some civil organization that stands for freedom. And that's what these questions will ensure. So I'm going to try and make this as fast as possible. The last interview was about an hour long. I'm going to try and do this within half an hour if possible. And I know that you have many more commitments. So let's start off with the entry criteria. And that is party or individual test criteria to ensure individual liberty over collective good ideology. So before you can start the test, you need to tell me where you stand on individual liberty versus greater good ideology.
Well, liberty is our first principle, and we recognize that government can make any law they want and impose anything on the people for the collective good. And unfortunately, our constitution is written in a way that empowers government to do so. And that's why I exited the party I was with previously, is because I realized government has too much power and individuals are powerless. So we need to put liberty first. The cornerstone of everything OHM is about is liberty. And the fundamental aspects of society, if you want to be free, is the right to defend yourself and the right to just live the way you want to without being imposed upon by any government or organization. So liberty is our number one principle.
Okay, so how do you feel about the greater good ideology? I just want people to be very clear on your stance, your thoughts on the greater good ideology. What is the threat with that?
Greater good for who is the question I always ask. So I feel like all greater good ideology sounds nice to the average human being, but it's actually the greater good for those that hold power in the world. It's not the greater good for humanity at all. In fact, any greater good ideology, any law enforced because of greater good ideology, just imposes on us, and it's anti-humanity. It takes away what makes us human. So any greater good ideology is anti-humanity and needs to come to an end.
Okay, thank you for that answer. I want to welcome Temba to the Double Odes community family. Welcome, Temba. I can already see the community welcoming you. We have 111 people watching now. 111, thank you so much for coming on and watching this live stream. And yes, thank you so much for being interested in what people stand for, because that's where it starts. And greater good ideology, as I've said in my Double Odes meetings, is a sugar-coated way of making people lose their freedoms, because you have to hand over to large corporations and or government. And therefore, I always speak of you being a citizen, uh, which is way better than being a subject to these people. The next question, let's just crack on through these questions so that we can save time and free you up as soon as possible. Question number one, and I'm going to ask it straight up, and then you must do the best that you can. And the people will later ask questions. I'm going to allow them to do that, so you are in a firing seat. Are you pro current constitution?
No. No, we're not pro current constitution. In fact, the very reason OHM exists is to change the government and political system. And in order to do that, we are rewriting the constitution. We also recognize that the Bill of Rights means nothing. And the one example that always comes to mind the most for me is how we all have a right to adequate shelter. Yet look at how the majority of South Africans live. It's the government has given itself power to decide what's adequate for each individual. And land is held hostage. The Constitution is subject, or the Bill of Rights is subject to our participation in the mainstream economic system. If you want to go live in the forest for fun, there is no room or no measures for that. If you don't want to have a formal dwelling or a formal job, there's no measures for that. You have to be a slave to the economic system or a slave to government. There's no in-betweens. There's no alternative. There's no parallel economy in which you can exist and still thrive. And that is an injustice to humanity.
Okay, well, I suppose that one you pass with flying colors. I do want to ask you about system change. I've got it in brackets there, and specifically direct elections. This is a question that I asked Wayne from the ACDP. What are your stance on that system change and directly electing leaders?
Well, it's important that we first change the system as it stands in the current system before you go straight into direct elections. So this is essential. If we just had to go to direct elections tomorrow, it would be an absolute disaster, because what you'd have is 400 independent candidates sitting in parliament, but you'd still have the rotten constitution and the rotten government administration. So you first need to change the system within the system before you usher in a different form of democracy.
And how do you feel about the concept of direct elections?
Well, we don't call it direct elections. We call it an improved and purer form of democracy where people directly elect their leaders geographically. So you first have to understand the structure of government within the OHM that we are proposing. The structure of government does away with provincial governments. We have 5 levels of government, just like we have 3 spheres of government in the current system, being local, provincial, and national. We have 5 levels of government in the new system we're proposing. And I'll quickly go through them. First level of government is government of the self. Second is government of the family unit, and this is so important because families are under attack. Third level of government is your immediate neighborhood, where you willingly and voluntarily improve your neighborhood together with people that you live with, your neighbors, your community. And then the fourth level of government is local. The fifth is national. And basically what will happen in the new electoral system is that you will vote for your president and your geographical MP representative. Then you'll vote for your mayor, and then you'll vote for your councillor in local government. But local government will have a lot more prominence compared to national government.
I see that provincial government is missing from that, because in the current, the direct elections group that I have, we still have provincial government there. And so you are saying that you would remove that?
It's actually unnecessary. We're giving more power to local government to take charge of service delivery in their communities, in their local municipalities. And I think, municipalities will probably change in size, but everything from clinics and hospitals to schools and everything that you get from government right now, you will rather get at local level. And there's various reasons for this, mainly accountability, because you can go to your municipal's doorstep and demand services if that's what your community requires. And then national will only have 3 specific spheres. And national will basically look after the defense of the country, the justice system, and management of infrastructure and resources. Local municipalities will take care of the rest. Having provincial would be completely pointless.
Okay, thank you very much for that. I know I labor the first one, and I did before in other interviews, because this to me is a starting point for everything else. So I think the others we could probably go through a lot faster, but to me, system change is vital. And we would need a massive effort to actually do that and achieve that. And maybe we can do an interview on that later, on how you propose to change the system. I would like to interview any public organization out there that wants system change to say how they propose to actually do that. But question number 1, you pass with flying colors. So let's move on to question number 2. Does your plan strive towards irrelevance?
Yeah, that's actually very beautiful. I feel like you stole that from me. While in the early days of forming our concepts and our strategy, I came across an article specifically written for nonprofit organizations. And they basically said 10 things nonprofits have to do if they're doing their job well. And number 1 on that list was making themselves irrelevant. So I see any political party or movement as well as a nonprofit. You're trying to solve a problem in the community or country. Therefore, if you're solving that problem, you are becoming irrelevant. So what we envision for the future is over time, and hopefully as fast as possible, government becomes smaller and smaller and less relevant. And with that, people pay less and less rates and less tax. So government needs to move to a point where it's hardly even there.
Obviously, to do that, you're going to need citizen involvement. So that would play a big role. How do you plan on doing that?
All members already know we have Amiga training. We have 10 modules that we're rolling out, and these 10 modules we foresee being in the future education system. And we envision every single...
Like as in schools?
As in, yes, junior school, high school.
Okay.
Somewhere between the ages of 10 and 14, this would be rolled out so that every child can survive and withstand anything. And what our Amiga training does is empower citizens to firstly survive without money, and then also to survive any eventuality. But the skills that go into that empower them to be completely aware citizens, understanding everything there is to understand about society and about government. And it's difficult to control someone that's empowered with knowledge and skills to that degree.
Okay, this is a question that I didn't think that many people would actually pass, because striving to be irrelevant, I think, is so counterintuitive in the current political system that we find ourselves in, and in the mainstream narrative, that people will think, well, are you crazy? You want power. You want to actually get votes. And I suppose OHM wants to do the same in local and national elections, gain votes. So how do you go about becoming irrelevant in future? How do you sell that to people?
Well, we need votes to achieve an objective. It's a means to an end. It's not, all the represented political parties, I feel, want to get bigger, and then they employ more people and they increase their salaries, and so it continues one year after the next. With organic community movement, participating in elections is only a means to an end. It's only one facet of a much bigger plan. So what we want to do is also remember, bring in a brand new form of democracy where there are no more political parties. So we are a political party to end all political parties. We have to operate within the current system in order to achieve complete system change, not just system change in the elections, but system change all around. And in order to do that, we have to register as a party and participate in the elections, and particularly national elections, to really achieve our mandate. And as soon as we, hypothetically, because this is what will have to happen, become the ruling party, we will immediately become the interim government after we pass the new constitution into being. And when we become the interim government, whoever has bums on seats in that parliament become independent interim candidates, and parties will fall away. The government will no longer recognize political parties at all. It doesn't mean that they won't exist. They might still exist, but they'll have no government recognition whatsoever. They'll have no government funding whatsoever. So when someone campaigns, they campaign on their own steam as an individual.
So the power will basically be gone. But that explains the irrelevance part, because you are actually undoing the fact that OHM is registered as a party through your own constitution.
Well, we have to. Unfortunately, there's no other way to change the system. And especially if we want the global market stakeholders to recognize the change as legitimate, that is very important, that the other countries in the world recognize the change as being called for by the people through the electoral system. This will stop them using the system change as an excuse to march into our country. If they do march into our country and try to take over, it will be a direct attack, because we would have changed the system legitimately through the vote, through the electoral system, through the current electoral system even.
Okay, thank you for that. So it's clear that your plans strive towards irrelevance, because you'll actually cease to be a political party and you'll actually give up power in a direct or a system where people are directly or elected as individuals.
I must just specify all of these things will be specified in the constitution that we are busy writing. So South Africans,
South African Constitution, Party Constitution?
South African Constitution. So South Africans will know exactly what changes are going to be taking place and what accountability there is. So as soon as that constitution is passed, we will already set the date for the next election. So everyone will know how much time is going to go by before we usher in the brand new democracy. Because remember, the new candidates in the new system are going to need campaigning time.
But most people don't even know what's in the current constitution. So what do you plan to do to use that constitution for people to support that plan of irrelevance and then ushering in the new system?
Well, very, very integral to our plan is having 1 million members empowered with all the knowledge and skills necessary to live independent of government and corporate control. And those 1 million members will literally form the counter narrative in society. So those 1 million members can do their part to educate the rest of South Africa on exactly how flawed our constitution is.
Okay, so I'm happy with that. I hope I've grilled you enough. Otherwise, people will claim that I'm unfair. So, question number 2, you pass, and then question number 3: do you align with Agenda 2030 Sustainable Development Goals, the SDGs, or Agenda 21?
Well, while I was in the previous political party I was with, I recognized how much overseas organizations and global organizations influence our government, and I learned. I actually sat in on the National Development Plan public participation process, and that was a learning experience because they were touring the entire country. National government was touring the entire country. And in Cape Town, they hired a very fancy hotel, and we had amazing food as usual. And over the 3 days where they were in Cape Town, there probably wasn't more than 60 people present in the public participation process for the National Development Plan. But what I can tell you is if you've read Agenda 21 and then you read the National Development Plan, it's the same. There's nothing very different about it. And slowly over time, I realized the United Nations directive isn't just to influence government, but it's actually to dictate policy to governments worldwide. That's the UN's role. That's what they mean when they say peacekeeping. And I honestly want the UN out of this country. If I had my way, I would withdraw from the UN tomorrow, but we're going to have to become very strong before we can do that. And having these globalists being in our business in South Africa is completely against liberty and is completely against humanity, because people are suffering in poverty while other countries are becoming superpowers out of our resources, and that needs to come to an end. It's one of the biggest injustices, but it's not like you can take the UN to the Hague, can you? Because they're all batting for the same team.
Okay, so I suppose that's a topic one can speak on all on its own. And okay, so you pass question number 3, and I really want to get through the rest of the questions. We've already been going for 20 minutes. So, are you exclusive?
Are we exclusive? Absolutely not. We are inclusive. I actually have a personal problem with any organization that's exclusive. We live in a magnificent country and we need to work together in order to achieve our objectives. So we are exclusive in absolutely zero ways. believe anyone, no matter what their age, their gender, their culture, their identity, it doesn't matter who you are part of South Africa. You are the South African identity. And together we form a unique, a very unique and powerful South African culture. We need each other. We need to be more tolerant because online I read the most horrible things that people say. And it's really heartbreaking. We need to learn to love each other a lot more. And be tolerant doesn't mean you like the other person, but be tolerant and respectful at the very least.
I see there's quite a few questions that have come through that we can try and address later. So I really want to get through these questions and then we can get to the questions from the people watching right now. Okay, so the exclusive part, you pass that, you include everybody. The one thing I do want to ask you, and this is because some political parties actually put race in their application forms and insist on it being there for for purposes of statistics. How do you feel about that?
Purposes of statistics is an insult to our intellect as South Africans. We South African, all of us. We are all South African. So we actually, as OHM, we don't have policies, but one thing we do want to do is obliterate racial classifications because it's a complete insult. And the unfortunate thing is that when you label the color, it makes us numb to our true identity and heritage and culture because all of a sudden we're just a single color as opposed to being a complete mix of different cultures, different countries, and different heritages. You can't just paint people according to what they look like. It's the most debased form of classification one can ever have. And I think it's a tool used to divide. And we need to all see each other as South Africans. And this is also something that's occurred to me many times, and it's probably something I should talk about on my channel, is that we as South Africans all need to identify as African. And even if we come from Britain a couple of generations ago, even if we come from Europe a couple of generations ago, we need to identify as African first and European in our ancestry second. But we are all African. If we are born here, then we need to see ourselves as African and act accordingly.
You just mentioned the word love now, and something that a lot of people have asked in the past is what would happen to the BBEE system under a future dispensation. In other words, when the governance system has changed. Seeing that we're speaking about inclusivity or exclusivity.
Well, BBBEEE hasn't really done much to lift previously disadvantaged people out of poverty. In fact, only if you're connected to those in power will you gain and benefit. So BBBEEE is classist, which is a form of exclusivity. So it'll have to go. We want to change the economic system, and we really want to focus on a local resource-based economy and boosting informal trading all across South Africa, and that will sort out all of these problems. We won't need anything like BBBEEE because people will be empowered to create wealth where they are.
Okay, let's get cracking with the other questions. So, are you exclusive? No, you are not. So, you passed that one. Question number 5. Do you believe in sovereignty?
Well, that's part of our vision. We believe that the nation needs to be sovereign. Our constitution, our current South African constitution, states that we are a sovereign country, but we are not. And precisely for the reasons I mentioned earlier, the United Nations literally dictates policy to our government. We are not sovereign. The fact that we don't have a strong, powerful, continuously developing military is just evidence enough that we are not a sovereign country. And very much our vision, the OHM's vision for South Africa is to become an independent, sovereign democracy.
Here's a comment I just want you to quickly address from AK. We have to identify as African. This is prescriptive in its own way.
Prescriptive? In what way? That we're identifying something?
Yes.
Yeah, but that's fine. We're supposed to have an identity. I want to feel like I belong somewhere. And South African, it's the same. I feel like a lot of privileged people have allegiances in Europe, in Britain, where they come from or where their parents come from. And when you have one foot in Europe and one foot in Africa, you're no good to this country. And that's my own humble opinion. We really need to take on an African identity because we were born here. We were born on this soil, and we need to do everything to fight for the independence of South Africa.
Okay, there's some, say now people immigrated to South Africa, okay, in their current lifetime, were born overseas, and now they are here. They might feel more in touch with their European roots.
Yeah, people that immigrated recently won't be considered permanent residents yet. But once they accept permanent residency, then you're South African.
Okay, so you definitely believe in sovereignty. Just quickly, what would you do to maintain sovereignty? Because to me, that is vital. I mean, to me, I see that there's a global enemy that wants to remove our freedoms, and if we don't have the means to maintain sovereignty, we are screwed. I mean, we won't be able to implement any of the things that you're speaking of.
Well, that's super easy. You need a proper, authentic democracy, not the sham we have now. You need every citizen to be empowered with knowledge and skills to survive without governments and corporate control. And then you need an extremely strong military. And that's something we as a country need to get to work on as soon as possible. But I don't see that happening in our current system. But those are the three pillars, I'd say, to ensuring that we safeguard ourselves against attack.
I really want to thank everyone that's come onto the stream. I see we have around 180 people in the stream right now. So please like the video and share the link so that other people can also watch this. So we're at the question of sovereignty, question number 5, and you pass that question. So it's 5 out of 10 up to this point. And question number 6 is, do you have, and I feel passionate about this, do you have a savior figure?
Oh, no, not at all. I'm also passionate about this. I don't believe anyone should bow down to any other human being, and we should all take the lead in our own lives to become as free as possible. And I can't remember who said it, but was it Mother Teresa? I don't know who said it, but there's this famous quote that if you want to change the world, start with yourself. And I suppose the OHM strategy is very much based on that, except the only difference is that we're changing ourselves, but we're working in unity towards a common goal. And that's why we will be successful. So I don't see myself as leader of OHM. That's just an official title the IEC gives me. I see me as a facilitator of the strategy, and each one of our members is leading in their own right, bringing this entire vision to fruition.
So that's quite a mind shift, because throughout South Africa now I see people every day saying how they are going to save the country. There's people promising better plumbing, better water supply, better sewage removal, better homes, better all sorts, jobs. They even promise jobs. What do you have to say about those people?
I don't trust them. I don't trust anyone that promises anything. How can anyone promise
Just
jobs?
hang on, we're getting to that. There's a question related to that later.
Okay, fine. No, I don't trust people in general, and I don't trust people that promise things. And if someone's promising you some kind of saving grace, then you're at their mercy. Then you are not free. So that goes completely against our principles.
Okay, that's actually a very good point. The fact that you are falling for promises makes you a subject to the person that makes you the promise. And that is really a problem. Okay, so there's no savior figure. Every individual member actually becomes a leader.
And the way our members work, we want all citizens of South Africa to live eventually.
Okay, so you want obviously the what you are doing to spread throughout the country. Are your aim just for South Africa? You're speaking about the people identifying as African.
Well, first, I'm concerned about South Africa because we are not okay currently. So all I can think of now is fixing up South Africa. But it is my dream that eventually the entire African continent rises. I think that's the only way we will end globalization and the dominance of the West, the Western ways that destroy the environment and destroy people and destroy culture and destroy family relationships as well. So Africa needs to rise. What do I mean by that? All African countries need to find their true liberation. And that's going to be hard work. I don't feel like that's an easy task at all. And I'm hoping out there on this continent, there are other organizations similar to OHM springing up, maybe flying under the radar. And hopefully, pretty much at the same time, we will find our liberation.
Okay, we've reached half an hour now, so we really need to get cracking. So you pass question number 6. Do you have a savior figure? Question number 7. What is your position on CSE? No, I can pass you on that
You
one
can pass me
already.
on that one.
I'm going to pass
No,
Lauren
but I'll
on
talk
this
about
one.
that a little bit
Yes,
quickly. I'm the
please. Yeah.
founder of hashtag Leave Our Kids Alone, and I ran hashtag Leave Our Kids Alone completely independent of OHM. So I did it in my personal capacity. And hashtag Leave Our Kids Alone is
Ran, you said ran.
Ran it. I'm thinking I'm in election mode. I'm in election mode too much. It's a movement I started on Facebook to mobilize parents who are opposing comprehensive sexuality education in schools. We are relatively successful, except now that the Department of Basic Education is coming back in full force, wanting to implement SLPs countrywide. And now,
What are SLPs?
SLPs are scripted lesson plans that will dictate to teachers exactly how they must teach sexuality to children. And this comes from UNESCO again. This comes from our global masters, and I'm completely opposed to it. And it's completely contrary to the principle of liberty, which is OHM's first principle. And just like hashtag Leave Our Kids Alone is a precious name because it comes from Pink Floyd's song The Wall, but it also just suggests what we want. We don't want the government to interfere with our kids. They must leave our kids alone. And likewise, if you look at our entire government philosophy or our philosophy on how government should be, we just want government and corporations to leave us alone. That's all.
Okay, so there's been quite a few questions. Maybe if you can just say, I don't know how long people will remain in the stream, whether you will have, where do you have candidates at the moment, just briefly?
In 21 municipalities and in 6 provinces. So definitely in the Western Cape, but not all the municipalities, obviously.
So the Cape Town Metro, there's been numerous questions about that.
11 candidates in Cape Town Metro. We have 3 municipalities in Gauteng. I think it's 4 municipalities in KZN, 3 municipalities in the Eastern Cape, 1 municipality in Mpumalanga, 1 municipality in Free State, and about 6 or 7 municipalities in the Western Cape. But we have that on our Facebook page. You can go have a look in our photo album on Facebook.
Okay, so I'll put the link in the description below the video. But yeah, Naz asked, are there any ward councillors in Mitchell's Plain specifically?
Yes, Naz, there are. So wherever we are contesting in a municipality, we are contesting in all the wards in that municipality. So Naz, yes. You must just let me know what your ward number is, and then I can get back to you on who the councillor is.
Where can people get to you with regards to that?
You can contact the Organic Humanity Movement on email, info@organichumanitymovement.org. That you will get a faster reply via email. Otherwise, send a WhatsApp to 066 556 9940.
So all the wards in Cape Town is covered. All the wards in Joburg is covered.
Joburg, Pretoria, Magale City, Durban, Port Shepstone, Eshowe. What am I forgetting?
East London.
East London, Jeffreys Bay, Port Elizabeth, McGregor, Clan William, Wilderness or George, Knysna, Plettenberg Bay, Cape Town, obviously, Bloemfontein, Bushbuck Ridge, and Hermanus or Overstrand, and I'm sure I'm forgetting some. But it's on our Facebook page.
Okay, so we have about 200 people watching this. That's really awesome. Let's get to the next couple of questions. So what is your position on CSE? You've been at the forefront of fighting CSE. Just quickly say how large that Facebook group is and how quickly it grew.
The group is about 135,000 members right now. It grew to 100,000 in a month. That's how desperately parents did not want their children to learn comprehensive sexuality education.
Okay, then number 8, we've kind of touched on this. Do you mention color or race vocally and or in organizational documents?
I find it appalling. I actually pretty much reject racial classifications. I don't like racial classifications, and I'd prefer that every member of the Organic Humanity Movement ceases using racial classifications when speaking about South Africans. We need to see past race. And I think that's long overdue. So no, we have nothing like that at all in any writing, informal or formal, in the Organic Humanity Movement.
Okay, so that's passing question number 8. Question number 9, do you make outlandish statements?
I hope so. I hope I do. I mean, wanting to change the government and political system is pretty outlandish. Our name is outlandish. Our logo is outlandish. Personal piece of info. When I was a teenager, one of my emails was outlandishalien@gmail.com. So I hope that we are outlandish, but not radical, not unreasonable, not unrealistically so.
This is the crux, because this question says, do you make outlandish statements? It follows into the next one, just to clarify, where it asks, do you make promises? Because making outlandish statements like, I'm going to give you housing in this entire neighborhood, that is the outlandish I speak of.
Okay, well, that's a lie. That's misleading people. So the question should be, do you lie to the people?
So you think I've got a bad question?
Got a bad question.
So do you make outlandish statements? There's certainly people out there that are making claims about what they are going to do. Julius Malema makes outlandish statements all the time.
It does get media
Do you
attention.
make statements like that? Do
No.
people in the O make statements
No,
like that?
I believe our vision is very bold. I believe
boldness and outlandish is very different.
No, then the answer would be no.
Okay. So you make bold statements.
Yes, what we want to achieve is enormous, but there is a very implementable step-by-step strategy to get there. And I believe we can do it if we all put in the effort and work in unity to do so.
So you need to decide now, is it bold or outlandish?
It's bold.
It's bold. Okay. So then we can move on to question number 10. Do you make promises?
No, we don't make promises. Not at all.
Why not?
It just doesn't make sense. There's no room for it. We have a vision. We have a mission. We have a strategy. We need to work towards that. We can be successful if we all put in the effort, like I say. If we don't all put in the effort, then we don't. And I personally work according to specific markers. Are we going to make it? Are we not going to make it? And if it ever looks like we're going to fail, then I'm going to stop what we're doing, because I have 4 kids to spend time with, and I don't want to spend unnecessary time on a plan that's going to fail. So as long as I see a success path, I'm going to work night and day towards the vision. I don't see any room for promises there. So you can either join or not. It's that simple.
Okay, so that was the 10th question. And except for the hiccup at question number 9, where your interpretation of outlandish statements actually meant bold statements, you would then score 10 out of 10. Now, this is just with regards to freedom. There's many other things that I can grow movements on, okay? And the one thing that people might say is, wow, this movement scores 10 out of 10 with regards to questions that make you more free. But then when it comes to practical implementation, this is where it can fall flat. In other words, do you have a roadmap to get to freedom? So I want to ask you that now. How are you going to ensure that the people of South Africa are more free through the organic humanity movement?
Well, that's system change. It's putting in a government structure with a philosophy to become irrelevant, so that they leave the people alone. And it's also empowering people with the skills they need so that they can recognize when someone is trying to control them. And my personal, I suppose, inspiration in a way is how the Spartans lived in ancient Greece and how they stood their ground against the Persians. I mean, it doesn't matter what side you are in that fight. I don't want to be biased here, but just looking at how they stood strong against being controlled by another government is very important. And you need to understand what it took. Yes, they all died, but they saved Greece. But what it took for them to be able to stop Greece from being taken over at that specific time was living a very, very disciplined and strict lifestyle. So I guess that's the answer. We need to awaken to the weight of this calling that each of us have. And this is the beautiful thing about our candidates. They are so normal. They are normal people. They're not politicians, but they've awakened to the responsibility to ensure that South Africa becomes free. So you can put the best government administration in place. You can put the best democracy in place. If we don't live with the freedom mindset, we will eventually just end up being controlled yet again.
So what freedoms do you see that have been removed from us already? Why should people want to be more free? Because what do you have to say to the people out there that think that they are already free, especially the ones in the upper middle class or the wealthy that drive around in fancy cars, get car allowances, live in an upper class neighborhood?
I think we mustn't get confused between being free and being free to spend money. And we're living in a society
I like that.
where we are free to spend money. What do we do with our spare time? All of it costs money, whether you want to go hiking, whether you want to eat something, whether you want to go to the movies, whether you want to watch a movie, all of it costs money. Even going to the beach costs fuel to get there. Every action in society, in this country, probably in most of the world, requires us spending money. That's our biggest vote, actually. So we mustn't get confused between the two. So that's the first thing I would say is don't get confused between the freedom to spend money and the freedom to just be. And the biggest test for me, and I spoke about it earlier slightly, is that there is no alternative to participation in the mainstream economic system that's tied to the global Rothschild economic system. If you just want to go live somewhere on a plot, on a piece of land, in a forest, wherever, and you just want to be, and you just want to grow some vegetables and have some chickens and raise your family, you have not got the freedom to do so. You first have to sell your soul to the economic system to have the money to do so. And if you don't do that, then you're either going to be squatting, so you'll be committing a crime, or you'll be subject to the government and get a piece of government land, but it won't truly be yours. So either way, we have no freedom because we're not free to live alternative to the mainstream economic system. So that's not freedom in principle.
Will you ever work with or have discussions with other movements or political parties that are currently represented in Parliament?
I don't see why. I feel like if they are currently in the system and they haven't broken away from it, then they're an enemy. I use that word way too liberally, but yes, I see them as an enemy if they haven't broken away. I quit my job. I left the organization I was with because I recognized the flaws in the system. It took sacrifice. And if they haven't done that, if they haven't made the sacrifice, then I see no reason to engage.
Okay, so what would you say to people in other political parties in Parliament right now? What would you say to them? Or would you just not speak to them at all?
I don't negotiate with the enemy.
You don't negotiate with the enemy. Wow. Okay.
So I work with individuals who hear the vision, resonate with the vision, and are willing to do the work to achieve the vision. That's it.
Okay, so individual people. So you'll work with individuals.
Individuals.
One last question, and that is, what time frame do you think, because there's a huge mind shift from what people are used to, and the questions are flying in the comments, and we'll get to that now. We're 42 minutes in.
Okay.
Now I've forgotten my question completely. What time frame?
Time frame.
Yes. What time frame do you hope for with regards to changing the system or
Wow.
coming to fruition?
This is actually very urgent. I wish I started 10 years ago, but 10 years ago I was 23, so that wasn't going to happen. It needs to happen as soon as possible, because I can tell you now, the kids that are my age, when they become leaders, freedom will be a forgotten memory. People won't even know what it is, because my age group already, loosely referred to as the millennials, have been so indoctrinated by a socialist school system that my generation just doesn't recognize when freedom's been taken away. In fact, there's this change where I think there was this period in time, probably my grandparents' period of time, where they really fought for freedom and wanted to maintain freedom, and they loved democracy. And then my age group came along, and instead of freedom to live your life, you have freedom from fear, freedom from danger. And that mind shift is very dangerous, because then you give power to government to keep you safe, so you're free from danger, to keep you fed, so you're free from starvation, instead of being free to do what you want and suffer the consequences of that. So we can't have the youth of today rise up and become the leaders. So we have less 10 years to achieve this. If we don't achieve this in the next 10 years, it's over. Then it's every man for themselves, unfortunately. And we have a plan to reach 1 million members by 2026. We want to fast track that. We want to reach 1 million members by 2024. It can happen if more people get involved and more people actively get involved to recruit more members, and the rest will happen.
So the plan depends on individuals.
And membership.
Membership.
So members are empowered with the knowledge of the vision, knowledge and skills to live independent of government control, and then to actually follow the strategy to get to a point where we are enough to change the government.
Okay, just one last question. When was registered with the IEC? In other words, how old is How old are you? Because I see there's some questions here. How old are you? And because I suppose a lot of people feel that someone that is younger might not be up to the task.
I think
What do you
quite
have
the
to say
contrary.
about
Someone
that?
that's younger has the energy for the task. I'm 34 years old, and the OHM concept was born on the 17th of September 2017. 2 weeks later, I left the previous party I was with, and then 2 weeks after that, I quit my job. And I've been doing OHM ever since and developing it from a small little concept to a nationwide organization that actually has a solid success path ahead. So we registered. The concept was born on the 17th of September 2017, but then I, as an individual, still had to come up with a logo, a name, a summary of what we stand for, which I wasn't very sure of in the beginning, and then develop it from there, write a constitution, then approach certain people that could join with me and help me on this journey, which led to us having our first meeting on the 13th of August 2018. That was our founding meeting as a requirement from the IEC. And then on the 14th of December 2018, we were registered. We got our letter from the IEC to say we are successfully registered as a political party.
Okay, the next question that I think is important now is how free are you as a movement? In other words, are there any international donors that's sponsoring what you're doing or the ideas or anything that you're involved in?
Oh, no.
How do you get your funding?
No, absolutely not. We have very, very little funding. We actually only really started receiving funding that we could do something with probably 2020. And it's been very tough because I have sacrificed a salary to do this, and it's been hard. But we only get donations from members and supporters, and quite a bit of those donations are anonymous. And just recently, we got quite a big donation from an anonymous donor, which we used to print posters and send posters across the country. So thank you if you're watching. And that's the only way we will ever get funded. If anyone wants to donate like R1,000,000, it's going to have to be anonymous. I don't want to know who you are, because the minute that happens, then that's when it becomes political, the dirty kind of political. So we get by on very little money. We don't have a huge staff component or anything like that. I'm the only one that's really working full time. We have our leadership structure.
Do you get paid?
I don't get paid. We have a leadership structure that's also completely voluntary. And then obviously on occasion, we'll have volunteers for specific things, and they also don't get paid. So we run on volunteers, we run on love, and we run on a lot of hope and faith. And thank you to everyone who does donate to us. It really does help. It's allowed us to contest in these elections. And we're hoping to grow our donations to the point where we can hire an admin staff next year, at least one, so that we can grow even more.
Well, hopefully I can have you back for another interview when we can go into the nitty-gritty of what you stand for. I know that you still have a lot of work to do and media inquiries to get through. How have you found the massive paradigm shift that OHM is putting out there? How has the media taken to that?
Well, we've always in the past sent our statements to the media, public statements to the media, and nothing really happens. But since the elections, we've gotten quite a lot of, not a lot, but quite a few media inquiries, and we've answered them. So all around South Africa, you'll probably see OHM here and there popping up. It's mainly local, although in two areas, the SABC has approached us. On Sunday, I did an interview on IFM in Port Elizabeth. This morning, I did an interview on Cape Talk, and that was surprisingly very positive. So I guess everyone is hungry for system change. I think everyone can see that what's happening is not working. How the system works is not working. So hopefully the media that's not bought, or specific independent journalists that are not bought, will take to our message well and help share it across the country.
Thank you very much. I believe that brings me to the end of my questions around the freedom part of things. If you have any questions, maybe another 5 minutes, if that is okay. We've been going at it now for almost 50 minutes. Are there any questions for Lauren Evanthia, the founder of the Organic Humanity Movement? If you have any questions, you can please put them in the comments. So far, there's been loads of comments. There's so many.
I did spot someone asking, how do you join? So you go to www.organichumanitymovement.org. Read. I really implore you to read what's on the website. Read the founding statement before clicking on Become a Member. And when you click on Become a Member, that's the sign-up form. There's a 20 Rand annual membership fee. And we also require a copy of your ID. And then you fill in that form and you're a member. That's simple.
That brings me to another point. How do you stop from being infiltrated by people that want to stop this change that you want to bring?
There's a question to hi Dev Jono, who is a judge? Who is to judge what and how to live their lifestyle? We as South Africans all have so many beliefs and rules that guide us without a central leader who will be right or wrong. Well, that's it. You're free to choose how you want to live your life. There'll still be, in the new system, a president of the country. You'll still have a representative in parliament, and there'll truly be a representative for you, not for their funders. And you will have a mayor and you'll have a ward councillor. And their roles and titles even might change a bit. There will still be those democratically elected leaders, for lack of a better word, but you firstly are leading in your own right. And as long as you're obeying the laws of the country, you're free to live your life however you want. For instance, I believe there should be a law that, I don't know, that you can't just steal other people's stuff. So you have a right to defend your property, but if someone still steals your stuff, then you can go to the justice system. And it'll be a decolonized justice system, so a justice system that actually works. So there'll still be laws, there'll still be leadership, but you are the first and foremost leader of your own life, and you can live your life however you want.
Okay, any other questions?
What percentage of the vote do you need to be able to change the constitution? Well, currently in our current system, to change a constitution, there needs to be above 66% majority. And that basically means we need to become the ruling party as OHM before we can bring forth this new constitution. But that is part of our strategy, and it is doable.
Okay, we have Heini Barnard asking a relevant question. I'm the founder of the National Association Against Managing Agents, commonly known as NAMA. What are your views on community schemes?
Well, define a community scheme. Remember, in our new structure of government, we have individual first, then family, then neighborhood or community governance, which is basically what you decide to do on your own. So if I also believe any problem in society, whether it's homelessness, whether it's the need of childhood education, whatever problem there is that we typically expect from government, first you need to solve it. If not you or your family, then the community needs to try and solve it. So I believe that in a robust democracy, community organizations are almost at the forefront of improving society and improving the quality of life for all its citizens.
Okay, here's a very important question, and I think it speaks to policies inabruptly. Will OHM place restrictions on dual citizenship, such as restricting access to certain jobs, such as in the civil service?
Okay, well, firstly, we need to just get one thing clear. OHM is not policy making. We only have one mandate, that's to change the system. Then what's going to happen is that you're going to vote for independent candidates to represent you. You're going to vote for your president, your MP, your mayor, your councillor. They are the ones in the new system that's going to make the policies. But I personally, if you have to take the OHM model and look at the principles, the least restrictions, the better.
What principles are you talking about?
Sorry, we didn't go through the principles, did we? We have 6 principles, and for any solution or law to be right for the people of South Africa, for any solution or law to be humane, all 6 principles have to be present in that solution or law. If one of those principles, if just one is missing, then it's not the right solution. So those principles, just very quickly, are liberty, protection of life, respect for the earth, continuous progress, self-reliance, and national unity. So all of that has to be, does the solution give you freedom? Does the solution allow you to be self-reliant? Does the solution, is it inclusive? Does it allow for progress? Is it improving on our current circumstances? Does it respect the earth? In other words, does not damage the natural environment? And of course, does it protect life? All 6 of those have to be present. Otherwise, it's not the real solution. Those are the 6 principles. But
That's quite counterintuitive, the fact that OHM has no policies. Because a lot of people will wonder what OHM is going to do. So OHM is going to do nothing. OHM is just changing the system.
Yes, correct. That's what we're doing. And then we're ushering in the new democracy where all of you are going to either come forward as a candidate and then elect those people. So you have to really work hard to elect the right people into public office so that when you ask these questions like, are you going to place restrictions on dual citizenship? Then those people are going to make those decisions. We only exist for one purpose, and that is system change, constitutional change. And then we usher in the new democracy and the new representatives that are elected within a true democracy. At no point, any solution that is put into place in a fake democracy is not a democratic solution. So how could we rightfully have any policies when the very system itself is not democratic? That would be wrong.
Okay, Marlene, well, I suppose that ties in what will happen with regards to voting rights of a permanent resident living here their whole life and paying the same taxes.
Again, that also has to be discussed with the new candidates, but a permanent resident, I mean, is that the same as someone with dual citizenship? We would have to discuss that within the new system.
Does OHM accept people like that within the membership?
We do. We accept anyone. If you live here permanently, then you can be part of the movement because you live here, you're affected by everything government does. If you have children and you live here, it doesn't matter where you're from, your children are affected by what the government does or does not do, as well as what corporations do and what corporations don't do.
So that means that if there's an OHM member trained within OHM running for president in future, they will encompass the OHM's principles and values, we hope, in what they do, and then people basically vote for that person, right?
Well, that's the thing. To achieve what we are going to achieve, we need 1 million members and a lot more voters. So hopefully all of them align and resonate with the 6 principles and the 4 values. And
what are the 4 values?
The 4 values are love, knowledge, justice, and action. And that should be the driving forces of every OHM member. Everything we do should be out of love. We should strive to gain more knowledge, which awakens us to the injustice, which makes us hungry to work towards justice, which then drives us towards action. Those are our values.
Okay, Tia is asking, have you thought of how you will reach out to the rural communities and introduce OHM to the masses? ? Many don't have internet access to know this sort of information.
Well, there's a difference between rural communities and masses. Most people are congregated into metros. How do we reach out to the rural communities? You get into your car and you drive there. So that will happen over time. We have really reached quite a lot. We traveled South Africa last year. So that's it. It's just about doing the work. And members who are in rural communities must reach out to more rural communities. By rural communities, I'm assuming you're meaning farmland, agricultural land. And then the masses, well, most masses, there's people all over the country. I don't really like the word masses. We're citizens. We're using social media to try reach a lot of people and a lot of youth. And for those that don't have internet access, then our members need to do the rest. So our members, we're at 1,400 and something members right now. So those 1,400 need to reach as many people as they can. As we grow, then say we 10,000 people need to reach as many people as we can. And that's how we can...
Just hang on, what does it mean being a member? Because you say there's 1,400 plus members.
You signed up the form and you're committed to working towards the vision to liberate South Africa.
So what do you expect from a member?
Well, there's different levels of membership. Some people sign up, and this is definitely the minority, I believe. Some people sign up just to say that they're a member of an OHM, just like people have with other parties in the past. But generally, if you read our constitution and membership responsibilities, there is a responsibility to work towards achieving the vision. That means attending activities and meetings. It means helping to recruit more members. It means, actually actively working to fulfill our purpose.
Thank you very much for joining me. We've been going at this now for almost an hour. I don't know if there's any last questions. There's many comments coming through right now.
This needs to be covered. You do not need to be an OHM member to vote for OHM on the 1st of November. So I've received this question a number of times in the past few weeks. That people seem to think that if they're registered with a political party, then they have to vote for that political party. And that is simply a lie. You can vote. You can be registered as a EFF member and go vote for the ANC. You can be registered as a Freedom Front member and you can vote for the IFP. It really doesn't matter. When you're standing at that ballot box, no one knows who you are. No one knows who you're voting for. There's no cameras. Your name's not written on the ballot paper. So your vote is truly your secret. You can be registered with anybody and vote for anybody.
Okay, where do you think that comes from? So
I think parties have lied to people in the past.
well, I'm trying to understand what's going on actually.
Okay, so we received 2 messages in the past few weeks of people saying, I am a member of this party. Does that mean I can't vote for you?
So you're saying the parties are telling
I'm
their
not saying
members
that.
that they
I'm
okay.
hypothesizing that
Okay.
maybe that's where that comes from.
Okay. Yeah, that I really can't understand, because anyone should know that you can stand there when you're in that booth, you're on your own, and I mean you can vote for whoever you want. I mean that's all. To me, and what I've been telling the people on the channel is that that's the only democratic thing you can do in this country right now, is make that cross, because no one can look over your shoulder, see what you're doing. It's completely private, and at this stage it's still on a ballot paper. It's not the electronic system that can be rigged. So as long as you have representatives at that voting station, you cannot crook.
Please give the website again, but slower, Rachel. Okay, it's www.organichumanity.movement.org.
I will also put the details in the description below this video, as well as in the first comment. Where else can people follow yourself and the OHM?
Well, the OHM is on Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook, and you can either search Liberate SA, because that's our slogan, or just search the Organic Humanity Movement. We're also on YouTube, and we have a YouTube channel, and I do live streams every Friday between 8 p.m. and 9 p.m. And that's where you can ask. If I didn't answer your question here, you can come on Friday and ask me the question there. And then you can also follow Lauren Evanthia. I have a Facebook page, and I have a YouTube channel as well.
What's the name of the YouTube channel?
Lauren Evanthia.
Okay, and then so when are the live streams?
OHM has live streams every Friday, 8 p.m. to 9 p.m. And you can come on and ask me any questions. That's supposed to be like a public meeting, but at home. So you can ask me anything any questions you have about the movement.
Thank you everyone for coming on. And please, if you have any other movement that is in the public space, that's in the political space, that want to change what's happening within the country, and you want them to take the 10-question challenge, please contact me. There's many movements that have had an opportunity. I will still be reading out the statements from Jeremy Acton, leader of the Dagga Party. He sent it through to me, so I will make that available to you. Thank you so much for watching this video. If there's anyone else that wants to take the challenge, please let those movements or parties or whatever contact me, and we will cover the 10-question challenge with them if they dare. Thank you very much for watching this with us, and thank you for your time.
Thank you. And I think there's a lot of unanswered questions in the panel, so please join my live stream on Friday at 8 p.m.
Okay, remember, we will put links to the Organic Humanity Movement's social media channels as well as website in the description below this video. Thank you very much for watching. Till the next 10-question challenge.